My team had a Slack channel called The Graveyard just for making fun of employees they wanted out. One night, I got drunk, logged in from my manager's laptop, and found screenshots of me crying on a Zoom. I forwarded it all to the CEO with the subject line, Culture Report. On Monday, 5 people were fired. By Friday, I was promoted, but they left one thing in my desk drawer. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to get tangled in office politics. I just wanted to do my job, stay out of the way, and not make waves. I'm not the loudest in meetings. I'm not the one pushing my ideas in everyone's face. But I work hard. I always thought that was enough. It wasn't. At our company, there was this unspoken hierarchy. If you were in the inner circle, you were safe. You got invited to drinks with the managers, you got the good projects, you got praised publicly. If you weren't, you were disposable. And what I didn't know until later was that they had a whole Slack channel dedicated to mocking the people they decided didn't belong. They called it the Graveyard. I found out about it completely by accident. One night, after a work happy hour, I ended up back at the office with a couple of people. Most left pretty quickly, but my manager had stayed behind for a while, then left his laptop open on his desk while he went outside to take a call. I was drunk, stupid, and curious. I sat down at his chair and started clicking around. I wish I hadn't. Buried in his Slack workspace was a private channel. The name jumped out immediately, The Graveyard. It was like something out of a bad joke. I clicked. What I saw made me feel sick. There were messages going back months. Screenshots of employees mid-Zoom call with cruel captions. Memes about people's appearances, their voices, the way they presented. The managers and their favorites piled on with reactions and comments, laughing like it was all just harmless fun. Except it wasn't harmless. Because I realized quickly, everyone who ended up in the graveyard eventually got managed out. First mocked, then nitpicked, then called a poor performer, then gone. And then I saw myself. There was a screenshot of me during a Zoom one-on-one with my manager. It was a rough week. I had been dealing with family stuff, and I broke down crying for a few seconds. I tried to hold it together, but I guess someone had screen capped it. There it was, frozen forever with the caption, "Performance review went great." Dozens of laughing emojis lined up underneath. People I said good morning to every day at the office had clicked those emojis. People I went to lunch with. People I thought were my friends. I just sat there, staring at it, the room spinning around me. My face was hot, but my hands were ice cold. For a second I thought maybe it was a dream, or maybe I was too drunk to be reading it right. But it was real. Something in me broke. And then something else hardened. Without even thinking too hard about it, I started saving everything. Screenshot after screenshot, scrolling back months. Every cruel joke, every meme, every comment. I dumped it all into a folder on the desktop, attached it to an email, and forwarded it to one person, the CEO. I typed 2 words in the subject line, Culture Report. No message in the body, just the evidence. When I hit send, I felt like I'd just jumped out of a plane without a parachute. I staggered out of the office and went home. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I threw up twice that night, convinced that I'd destroyed my own career. Monday morning, the air was different. People looked nervous. My manager wasn't making small talk like usual. HR was calling people in one by one. By lunch, 5 people were gone. Their Slack profiles deactivated, their desks cleared. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew something huge had happened. The rest of the week was like walking through fog. My inbox was unusually quiet. People avoided eye contact with me. By Friday, I got an email from HR with an attached letter, a promotion. No explanation, just a congratulations. When I moved into my new desk, I opened the top drawer to start settling in. That's when I found something I wasn't supposed to see. Something they had left behind. The desk felt like a reward at first. A bigger screen, a window view, a new badge of status that people noticed when they walked by. But the feeling didn't last long. When I slid the drawer open, there was a thick manila folder inside. At first, I thought maybe it was old paperwork, leftovers from the person who had been there before. But the first page made my blood run cold. It was a printed out picture of me. The same screenshot from Zoom, me crying, Someone had gone through the trouble of printing it in color and sliding it into the folder like it was important. Underneath it, stapled pages, comments, threads pulled directly from the graveyard. But this time, every single one about me. It was like a case file. My name at the top of each printout. Snide remarks about my work. Comments about how I dressed, how I wasn't leadership material, jokes about my voice cracking in meetings. Some of them were just one-liners, but others were long, written-out rants. And the worst part, some were from people I thought were neutral, even kind. People who never openly disliked me. The more I flipped through, the sicker I felt. It wasn't just mockery. It was targeted, like they were keeping score, documenting every misstep, waiting for me to fail. My promotion suddenly felt less like recognition and more like a spotlight. If they had gone this far to keep a record on me, then sending that email to the CEO hadn't erased the threat. It had only raised the stakes. For the rest of the week, I caught people watching me when they thought I wasn't looking. Conversations stopped when I walked by. A couple of coworkers who used to chat with me at lunch now avoided me completely. I could feel it. The line had been drawn. And it didn't stop there. One morning, I found a sticky note on my monitor that said, "Nice work, snitch." No one saw who left it. IT brushed it off when I asked if the cameras could be checked. Then, my personal calendar started acting strange, meetings showing up that I didn't create. A reminder labeled, "Check the drawer," popped up one afternoon, set by someone else using my account. When I checked the drawer again, there was a second note, "We know." I stopped sleeping properly. Every ping from Slack made me flinch. I had taken down the ones who mocked me the loudest, but the ones who remained were quieter, and I couldn't tell if they were waiting or planning or just watching. And I kept wondering if they left that file in the drawer, was it an accident? Or was it planted there on purpose so I would find it? The folder haunted me. I couldn't throw it away. I kept it locked in my bag, carrying it back and forth to work like a loaded gun I was too scared to fire. Every page felt like evidence, but also like bait. A week after finding it, I came into the office early. I wanted quiet, no eyes on me. My desk looked normal at first, but when I opened my laptop, I froze. My desktop background was changed. It wasn't the company logo anymore. It was that same picture of me crying on Zoom. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to breathe. I unplugged the laptop and went straight to IT. They said it was probably a glitch and offered me a replacement device. But I could see the way the guy looked at me, like he already knew. That night, I checked the folder again. Someone had added to it pages I hadn't seen before, fresh printouts, screenshots of my Slack messages from just days earlier, ones I had sent privately to a coworker about project updates, notes in the margins mocking the way I wrote. That meant someone had access to my account. And it meant they knew I had the folder because it was impossible for those new pages to appear unless someone had slipped them back into the drawer when I wasn't looking. I tried to talk myself out of it. Maybe HR planted it there to scare me. Maybe it was just leftovers from an investigation. But then on a Thursday afternoon, I opened my email and saw a draft waiting in my unsent folder. It wasn't mine. It was addressed to the CEO with an attachment of the entire folder. The subject line read, "Here's what your new star employee has been hiding." My blood went cold. Someone was setting me up. The next day, my manager stopped by my desk. He leaned on the divider, smiled in this way that wasn't really a smile, and said quietly, "Funny how fast things change around here." Then he walked away. The whispers got worse. People I thought were safe stopped replying to my messages. My phone rang once with a blocked number. When I answered, all I heard was someone quietly laughing before hanging up. It was becoming clear getting people fired hadn't ended the graveyard. I hadn't buried it. I had just made it more dangerous. And now I was the only name on the list. And then, 2 weeks later, a package showed up my home. No return address. Inside was nothing but a USB drive. The package sat on my kitchen table all night. I didn't want to plug in the USB. I didn't want to know. But by morning, fear outweighed caution. I opened my personal laptop, turned off Wi-Fi, and stuck it in. It was a single folder. Inside videos, screen recordings, Slack conversations, meetings I didn't remember being recorded. One clip stopped me cold. It was me sitting at my desk looking stressed, clearly unaware of the camera. In the corner, the Slack window was open and messages were popping up in real time. People making jokes about me as I worked, mocking my body language, betting on when I'd crack again. There were dozens of clips. Someone had been documenting me, like I was entertainment. That night, I didn't sleep. I started piecing it together. The folder in my desk, the background change, the phantom email draft, it was all deliberate. They wanted me paranoid. They wanted me isolated. They wanted me to break. So, I'd look unfit for the promotion, but the USB changed everything. Because it wasn't just about me. Some of the clips showed them mocking other employees too. People who had nothing to do with me, who probably had no idea they were being ridiculed behind closed doors. One video even had audio, a Zoom recording where, after an employee signed off, my manager and two others laughed about her speech impediment. That was the moment something shifted. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about exposing everything. I spent the weekend making copies. I organized the files into folders by employee, by date, by subject. I wrote a detailed timeline of everything that had happened to me, the screenshots, the folder in my desk, the tampered laptop, the package at my home. I knew if I just sent this to the CEO again, it might get buried quietly, but if I went bigger, it couldn't. So I did. I sent the package, physical copies in USB, not just to the CEO, but to every member of the board, to HR, and to legal. And I included one line in the cover letter: "This is your culture. Employees deserve to know if this is who represents your company." I expected silence, maybe even retaliation. What I didn't expect was the firestorm. Within days, the board ordered an internal investigation. IT started pulling server logs. HR started interviewing staff. People got suspended. Whole Slack histories were requested. And word leaked, not to the press, but to employees. The whispers spread like wildfire. The graveyard wasn't just a rumor. It was real. The collapse was fast. My manager was terminated. 3 directors lost their jobs. Several favorites from the inner circle were escorted out with security. Slack access logs showed they had been coordinating more than just jokes. They were actively targeting people for removal, even flagging them unfairly to HR to build paper trails. And the kicker? One of the USB videos included them mocking the CEO himself during a meeting he had hosted. That sealed their fate. By the end of the month, the team I had worked under barely existed anymore. The company sent out a formal statement about rebuilding trust and a commitment to culture. They even rolled out mandatory ethics training. The irony wasn't lost on me. And me? I didn't stay. I couldn't. Even with the promotions, even with the recognition, that office felt poisoned. Every corner of it carried whispers of what had been done to me, what had been done to others. But I didn't leave quietly. Before I walked out for the last time, I left one thing in that same desk drawer: a copy of the folder. The screenshots, the comments, everything. On top of it, a sticky note: "Some things don't stay buried." It wasn't about getting even anymore. It was about making sure they could never pretend it didn't happen. And in the end, the only graveyard left was the one they dug for themselves.